This is a story that takes place in the late 1990s, early 2000. The place is undivided Bihar in Ranchi. I heard this story from an ex-colleague, a friend. We will call her Vandana. Vandana grew up in an upper middle class, well-to-do family. Her father, her uncle, everybody were lawyers. They were landowners and they were comfortable, you can say rich family. They grew up and had a very, very happy childhood. Vandana was the elder sister and she had a younger sister, Priya. When the story happens, Vandana is about 16 years old and Priya is about 14 years old. And they grew up like any normal kid in any normal household across the country. However, there was one difference, is that the parents knew, and the kids to a certain extent knew, but the kids were not so much involved in it, knew that there was an imminent threat that was across Bihar at that point of time. You see, Bihar at that time in Bihar, kidnapping was almost like an industry, or not almost, it was an industry. Everybody who had some money was a target. Doctors, lawyers, other professionals like government officers, bank managers, businessmen, their wives and kids were always targeted, and a lot of kidnapping was happening. Seemingly, the law order situation was such that nothing really came to justice. The kidnappings continued, the ransoms continued. Sometimes the kidnapping victims got injured, a few got killed also. So it was a very disturbing situation that was happening there. So Vandana's parents and their friends' parents were always worried about their kids. It is so said that every month the list was prepared, and the amount of money that could be earned from this particular industry or venture, if we may call it, was decided that so much of money they needed to earn. Like these kidnapping gangs were obviously, they did have some kind of political connection or support. Otherwise, they would not be able to, operate with so much of ease and for so many years. Anyway, sometimes even the threat of kidnapping got ransom because people would rather pay than have their loved ones suffer or go through this kind of humiliation. Few people, however, wanted to raise their voice in Ranchi, and they called to different agencies, they called to different to the central government and to the law and order system. They were writing articles, they were trying to spread the word through their network to get some attention to the dire situation that they were in. And slowly they were getting that support, because you see at that point of time the state itself was imploding into two, and a demand for a separate state of Jharkhand, which we have now, was becoming more and more popular. So the political movement which was behind getting the two states separated had jumped into this whole thing about kidnapping and saying that how people are unsafe and there is so much of law and order disturbance that it is better that we have two different states, and then people can live peacefully and we will not have this kind of monstrosity or this kind of crime happening in anywhere. So they had joined the bandwagon with these people. The kidnappers were not happy about this situation. Obviously, it was not to their liking that so much of attention was coming to them. So the gangs were not happy because they were being targeted, and their way of working was getting hampered. That means they were not being able to kidnap as many people as they wanted. It was an industry, so there were salaries and there were other incidental costs, and plus money went where we don't know for sure. But it was hampering them. Hence, they were not happy. In this scenario, what happened was that the kids that we were talking about, Vandana and her friends and her sister and their friends, they were not really into this whole thing, and they had no information, or they were not given any information, and hence life was much normal for them. and they did not have too many restrictions, so nobody really thought much about it. And when you're 16 or 14 years old, or even younger, these are not things that really keep you awake at night. The parents, however, were worried. However, they did not want to scare their children, so one way or the other, things was going kind of normal. And Vandana, Pia's friend Kamya, and another friend Rahul decided that they would go for a picnic. Now, they used to stay in Ranchi, and near Ranchi, not very far from their house, they were really nice, beautiful, picturesque places with small waterfalls and little forest lands. So it would take them they would take their car, and it would take them about half an hour or less to reach a place like that, and they would picnic. They just wanted to spend the day enjoying themselves. And as it said, it's done. They planned and they went, and they took a car with them, which was being driven by somebody who has been with the family for 10 years. So the family also did not really think about it much. They thought that the children are safe. They're just going maybe 5 or 6 kilometers from the house. They can be called anytime. After picnic, which the 4 kids went a little over time, they were just enjoying themselves, they packed with their things and got into the car. As it was a long, long day and a little tiring day, everyone felt a little sleepy. Or so they thought. It was becoming very difficult while they were traveling in the car to keep their eyes open. They had no idea why they were feeling so sleepy. And so, one by one, and Vandana, who was the eldest at 16, and Pia, Kamya, and Rahul, who were all 14 at that point of time, fell asleep. When they kind of woke up, it was because the car was going on a very bumpy road. Like, they were getting a lot of jerking movement in the car. It was as if the car was on an uneven road with a lot of stones or mud. They couldn't understand, but the car was jumping up and down, and that kind of woke them up. They were still very groggy, and when they looked outside, they could not see much because you remember I said that they started around 4:30, 4:45, and this is the eastern part of the country, so dusk comes much faster here than rest of the places like north or west. So things were in more or less in a twilight state, and they were groggy, so they couldn't understand where they were. So they just asked the driver, "Bhaiya, are we home yet?" And the driver told them, "Don't worry, beta, almost. The kids in the back, which was Kamya, Pia, and Rahul, they went back to sleep. But something was bothering Vandana. And she felt that they might be not all right. She doesn't know why she felt like that, but she felt so. And in the back of her head, there was something telling her something about the driver. But, she was groggy and sleepy and very tired. So it wasn't coming to her. Like, what that one tingly thing was that was bothering her. They thought, okay, we will be home soon, and it shouldn't be a problem. Then it occurred to Vandana that their way back to home, they really did not have any roads which were uneven or bumpy or things like that. I told you, they were 5 or 6 kilometers away from their house. And though it was a little bit of a distance in terms of travel time or driving time, the roads were mostly even. They were not so bumpy that they felt like as if they were on a mountain path or something like that. Anyway, after a few minutes, the car took a turn, again they don't know where, and entered into a completely forest, bushy land, and it stopped. And it stopped with such a jerk that all of them kind of woke up. It stopped, and they heard the driver whistling. The driver whistled. The moment it whistled, and before the kids could properly react to it or understand what is happening, They were surrounded by a gang of about 7 or 8 people with wraps on their faces. In India or in the eastern part of the country, there is something called a gamcha, which is a very it's kind of like, it's used instead of using a bath towel. It is used all as a garment for anything, covering your head, wiping your face or your body, or even wearing it sometimes. It's a part and parcel of life there. It's a very fine cotton cloth which is woven in a checkered format, mostly with different colors of red, and it's a very, very popular garment, or a popular thing in the eastern part of the country. And they were all wrapped up in that, their headgear, their face gear, if in this case, if I may say, was like a gamcha. And they just surrounded and started opening the door and getting the kids out. That is when Vandana remembered what was bothering her. At the end of the picnic, the driver had got them 4 bottles of cold drinks as they were kind of finishing up or wrapping up, thinking of wrapping up, and had insisted that they drink it. He said that, okay, this is my gift for you for the picnic and please have it, and all of that. In their happy state of mind, it never occurred to them that where did he get the bottles? There were no shops or small stalls or even a market nearby the place that they were. And all of them had it, because they never mistrusted this guy. He's been there with the family for 10 years, mind you. Anyway, at this situation, all the kids started shouting, crying, and the man, who they seemed to be like the leader, told them that if they shouted and screamed, they are most welcome to do so, because no one will come, because there is nobody here in the near 5 to 7 kilometers. So they are most welcome to shriek and shout and cry. But there is no guarantee that he is not going to do anything to them if they keep on shouting and screaming. He said that they will be badly beaten up, or there might be worse things happening to them if they did not keep silent. He asked them to start walking behind him. They had already bound up the hands of the kids and put them in like a long line, 4 of them, Vandana leading and the others behind her, and behind the team leader, and the other bandits or kidnappers in this case were in the rear of the kids, guarding them so they can't run away. They had no idea what happened to the driver or the car. They started walking through like an uneven, muddy patch. Once again, they could feel now stones or things like that under their feet, and it was twilight, so the path was not very clear, and they were walking and it felt like that they were walking for miles and miles. In the far distance, they could see a house that was half done or totally unfinished, like as if somebody was doing the construction and had just left for the day. It looked like that to them, because they were looking at it not in the daylight or more light. They were looking at it in a twilight situation. They had no idea where they were. They had no idea what place this was, and around them the sound was of maybe crickets or mosquitoes and such insects, but otherwise it was completely silent. The young spirits, the young children and their spirits were completely down, and fear was gripping to them tighter and tighter. They were losing hope very fast. All of a sudden, there was this mangy dog, a mangy kind of a dog that came up right in their path, in a little distance, and started shouting and barking and kind of running towards them. So both sides of this place that they are walking, remember that they are fields, like forest land, small bushes, big trees and things like that. So they had no idea where the dog came from, but the dog just came and started shouting. And the leader in front, who saw the dog, just raised his hand. He had a gun in his hand to shoot the dog. And Vandana, in an uncontrollable movement, or let's say in an unconscious movement, she just pushed the leader in a way that the shot got deflected and the dog did not get hurt. The leader was very angry with this movement, or what Vandana did, and he slapped her really tight, and she fell down because her hands were bound, and obviously you understand her situation. This is a grown man who's slapping a 16-year-old child, and she fell to the ground. As she fell to the ground, the other kids hurried to help her to get up. In this commotion, all of them were busy getting Vandana up, except Rahul, who had just got it. For some reason, he put his head up and he saw the dog had retreated into the forest, and behind the dog, he could see an old lady. Now, why I say old lady is because that's how they have described her. It seemed like a lady of an undetermined age, like they thought that she was old, but she might have been not very old. They couldn't make out much of it. Okay, just let's say that there was a lady, a little elderly lady who was there behind the dog, but nobody else seemed to have noticed her except Rahul. And she felt that the lady silently called the dog back, and before he could raise his voice to ask the lady for help, she seemed to have melted into the forest or the growing darkness. So he didn't say anything, and just started walking back in the same way where they were walking to the house. They reached the half-constructed house, and the children were taken inside the house. They couldn't understand where they were going because it was so dark, like one turn, this turn, that turn. And they were taken into a room and kind of thrown inside the room. The room had a door, but the door did not have a palla, or the door was not there, only the frame was there. The windows were there, but the windows were all boarded up and there was no light in the room. The room also had an interior door which led into another space, a room that they could see, but they couldn't know what was inside that. Even that did not have a door, just had a door frame. So they were told that sit down and just wait for instructions, do not make any sound, and don't try to run away from here. We are all around looking. We will be shooting anybody who even tries to make a move. This is how they were left in the room, and after a while, one of the men came back and he brought them a matka, or earthenware full of water, which is used in the rural parts of the country. Often in the urban parts of the country, earthenware is used to store water, drinking water. So he gave them this one matka or earthenware full of water and one stainless steel glass covering the matka mouth, and told them that this is the water, that they are rationed for the night. They had no idea what time it was at, because they couldn't see their watches in the twilight, or by then it had become completely dark. And he said that they should ration and have the water, because if it finishes, they are not getting any more. At least that night they would not get any more. Saying that, he left. And he also cautioned them. He cautioned them to be very careful, because the only people around were these 7 guys in and around the whole area, and they would not be very kind to them if the kids tried anything, or if any of them made too much of trouble for them. The man left. Vandana, being the eldest in the group, she helped each one to draw out some water and take small sips. They knew how to ration things because they knew they were not taking the kidnappers lightly. They knew that their situation was quite dire, and they had to be as calm as possible. That is possible at when you're 16 or 14 years old and you are in such a situation. By then the kids were a little bit better because they were sitting down, and the sleeping pill or whatever was given to them, that effect was going off. They had water, and Pia and Rahul, they walked up to the other door in the room and realized that it was a very, very rudimentary washroom with like a hole in the ground and a bucket of water there. That's about it. The washroom did have a very small window. Maybe a small kid could go through it, but the window was high up, and they did not have any ideas how to reach that or what was on the other side of the window. So they felt their gloom, their doom and gloom and sadness, and they started crying again. Vandana cooled them down, as she was the eldest and taken up like a leadership role to be able to save her sister and the sister's friends. She told them that they should wait for the morning to do anything. The kids did try to see if they could open their hands. They were bound, but the rope was in such a way, and because all of them were bound up, they couldn't really take it off. They had done a good job, the kidnappers have. She also told them that surely the kidnappers will reach a message to their parents, and maybe the parents will give the parents will give the ransom, and then they will be able to go back home. They all sat huddled together, holding each other like as much as possible for moral support and for physical support. And they were sitting and talking softly. While they were doing that, another two men walked into the room. They were carrying a lamp, or how we say here, a harken, which is like a kerosene light, and some food, and two mats, which in vernacular term would be called shital pati or pati. They are made of jute, and they are used for everything from sitting down and eating to sleeping. They are all-purpose kind of mats. So they gave them these things and told them that the food that was given to them was dinner and the mats were for sleeping. These guys also showed them that, indicated that small room inside, and told them that if they wanted to go to the toilet, that was what they should use. These two men who had come were not rude. They spoke quite nicely. So Vandana kind of had a little courage and asked them that if they had contacted their parents. Both the men smiled slightly and they said, yes, your parents have been informed and they are trying to get the ransom. So you stay here, you eat and you sleep. Do not make a sound. Don't make the Sardar or the leader angry, and you should be okay. If you don't give us trouble, you will be going home soon. For the first time, they had some light. So they checked their watches and it was close to 9 p.m. at night. And though they did not want to eat anything, but slowly they were feeling a little hungry. And they decided to eat. Like, getting angry on food really doesn't help you in any situation. So it is better to eat and to have your energy to fight or to be able to free yourself than be not having the food and not having the energy to fight. So, and you are much more practical and less emotional when you are younger than when you grow up. Maybe your ego plays less, or so I think. They had been given a bowl where there were rotis and another one which had egg curry. Surprisingly, the curry was quite tasty, and they did sit on the mat and they did finish their dinner. They did have their food, what was given to them. plus understand there was fear, there was fatigue, there was a little bit of anger, and there was feeling of what is going to happen to them, and a very unforeseen event had happened to them. They had no idea about their future. Everything was making them, kind of little vulnerable. It's a odd feeling. They said that it was both claustrophobic because they felt that they could not get out, their hands were bound together. However, they did feel the other human emotions or activities, like they had to go to the loo, or they felt sleepy, they felt hungry. So it was a very strange thing. Everything was contradicting each other, like a situation that they had never been in, or I don't wish anybody to be in. Anyway, in this situation, what they decided was that they put the mat against the wall, they sat with their back to the wall, and all of them close to each other, and they were kind of sitting and dozing off a little bit, or sleeping off a little bit. By then, there was nothing much to do. They had explored whatever they could explore, and they have been told in so many words that they can't do much. They kept looking at their watch, and by the time it was about 10:30 or so, all of them were feeling sleepy. Day has been really, really tiring for them. The whole emotional tiredness of being in such a situation might make you fall asleep, which is good. It's a way that body also tries to rejuvenate itself, because when they were being captured and being brought in and all of that, a lot of adrenaline was used. Now that the adrenaline rush was going down, obviously they will feel tired and sleepy. They tried to stay awake, but they could not. They drifted off into some kind of a dozy, slumbery kind of a thing. Vandana doesn't know at what point of time, but at some point of time she felt that somebody was, shaking her by the shoulder. And in this slumber, doze kind of a state of hers, she thought that it must be one of the kids. But slowly the shaking became a little more forceful, and she felt that she had to wake up, and she opened her eyes, and as she adjusted her eyes to the faint light that was there in the room, she saw something that almost made her shriek out. There was the mangy dog who was standing at the door, and this is the dog that she had kind of helped to save. Remember the dog I told you? He was at the door, and inside was a lady. Again, she couldn't understand the age of the lady, so I will just call her a lady, who was trying to wake her. As she was going to shout, the lady put her hand on Vandana's mouth and told her, "Don't shout. If you want to get out, if you want to live, wake your friends and come with me. Don't make any noise." She removed her hands from Vandana's mouth and started opening the bindings on Vandana's hands. Once she opened the bindings, Vandana started rubbing her hands, because her wrists and part of her hand was numb from the way they had tied the rope. So she started she started rubbing it, and they were a little painful. I can't explain until unless one goes through it, but it was a very painful exercise. She then slowly and as silently possible woke up Pia, Kamya and Rahul. Vandana explained to them what the lady had said, and both the lady and Vandana started trying to untie their hands. Okay? All of a sudden, there was a noise, like the dog made a kind of a noise, and the lady said, she stopped opening their hands. She told them that they should just put the bindings back together and act as if they are sleeping. She and the dog, they again felt that melted into the darkness of the room. Where they went, we don't know, like as if they went into the shadows of the room. The kids, acted as if they were sleeping, and they were on each other, and they kept the bounds on and pretend to be sleeping. Soon Three men came inside the room, checked them, and thankfully the men did not touch the kids because they would have known that the bindings are all open and they are not tied properly. But what they did was they took away the dishes and they took away the light, the only light in the room. Now, in almost complete darkness, the kids sat up again and the lady and the dog reappeared. She started opening Rahul's bindings when he said, "I saw you on the field." She put her finger on her lips and asked him not to talk. She said, "Don't talk. Don't say anything. I don't want any of you to make any sound." Slowly, once all the kids were free, and she gave some signal to the dog, and the dog they thought gave a signal back to her. They had no idea how the dog and the lady was talking, but somehow they were communicating with each other. And she asked the kids to follow her, and she started following the dog. The kids had no idea where they were going. Obviously, they had no idea where they were, so they had no idea what was happening. But somehow they knew that they could trust this lady. Somehow they felt safe with her. They had no idea why they were feeling like this, because obviously they hadn't seen this lady before ever, and why she was helping them. These all questions never came to them. They just started following her. She took them out of the house. This was not the side that they had come in. At least they knew that much, because when they came in, there was a gate that they passed, and this time they did not pass any gate, or a semblance of a gate they had passed. And she started walking. She was walking, she wasn't running, but they were trying to keep up with her. It was as if she was like the wind. They felt as if she was walking as fast as the wind goes. The kids started following her. They half jogged, half ran to catch up with her, but they kind of went on, and in no words. They were all silent. The sky behind them and on top of them was slowly becoming pink, as in day was breaking. They had no time to look at their watch, but they could feel that the day was breaking. And when they felt that they could not go anymore, they heard sound of vehicles in front of them. And from the little clearing of the jungle, they had a little bit of an incline that they had to go up, and they realized that they had reached the highway. The lady told them that, "Please, you guys go up on the highway and you stop a car or you stop a truck and you can go home from there. I will not come up to the highway with you. I am waiting here till you get something." And she was standing below the incline. It was not a very high incline, but a small incline that she was standing there. And the kids went up to the highway. Pia and Kamya was too tired to do anything, so they sat right there at the edge of the road. Vandana and Rahul started to look for trucks, and the lady had told them that which direction the truck should be, which they should stop, which way is like back home. So they started to see what they could do, and soon enough there was a truck which was coming, and it stopped. The driver and the helper stopped the truck in the road, and they got down because they saw 4 kids on the road. The kids looked disheveled and they looked in trouble, and they came down and they were very surprised. They were like, "What are you doing in the middle of the forest, in the highway?" But they didn't understand that they are young kids, and so Vandana gave them told them the story about the kidnapping and how they got saved they were helped by somebody, and how they wanted to go home. The driver and the helper wanted to know how this one person or one lady could evade such violent men, the kidnappers. The kids told them that the lady was standing at the incline, at the edge of the incline, and the dog was also there. And they said, "Oh, that's there, Amma is there." And they turned around, and there was nobody. There was not the lady, there was not the dog, there was nobody. By then, the morning had kind of come in. They looked at their watch, and it was about 5:30 or so in the morning. And like I said, the story is in the eastern part of the country where morning happens faster, and by 5:30 it's light, so they could see into the forest till about some time, and they couldn't find anybody, not someone walking back or not a trace of them, the lady and the dog. Anyway, the driver and the helper got into action. They were very nice people. They gave them some water to wash their faces. They gave them some water to drink. They helped them at the back of the trunk. And they said that they are almost 40 odd kilometers away from the city of Ranchi. So about a couple of hours or more from their house. And it is a very, very remote place where they were. They had the driver and the helper had no idea that there was a house or something like that, because it was all forest land, and within the 5-7 kilometers there was not even a village. It was just forest land. So anyway, saying all of this to them, they were so kind. They took them to their house, to their home. They all went to Vandana's home. That's what the kids had decided, that they would go to Vandana's house and then call up their parents and catch up with them. But to their surprise, all the parents, like Kamya and Rahul's parents were also at Vandana's house. That is because the kidnappers had called Vandana's uncle and asked them to give a ransom together for 4 kids. They had asked ransom for 4 kids together. So the Piya's father and Vandana's father, Vandana and Piya's father, sorry about that, Vandana and Piya's father, Rahul's father and Kamya's father, they had all got together and they were putting the money together to go and pay the ransom. They were given a particular time. Some police was also there in the house because they had alerted the police after they got to know. They had no idea that the driver was involved at this point of time, by the way. So the moment the kids came in, there was mayhem, there was chaos. Everybody was shouting and talking at the same time. There was a lot of hugging, there was a lot of crying, there was a lot of smiles. It was totally emotional. The parents had no idea what they would do. They were like hugging one kid and talking to the kid and asking what is happening. They were hugging each other. It was hugely emotional, and then they realized that this driver and the helper of the truck had brought them, and they were so grateful to them. They offered them some money, and the driver and the helper said, no, we cannot take money. For kids we cannot take money. How can you think like that? It's not possible. So they said, okay, then you stay here. We are going to cook something. Vandana's mother and her aunt, they were crying and saying, we are going to cook something. We are going to make breakfast for everybody. They told the police guys, they told the driver and the helper, they told everybody, please stay. Let us make something. Let us all eat together. It was like as if the light, the sun, everything had gone back to their lives, and the day was becoming brighter for them. Everybody has tears in their eyes at this reunion. So the police, after everything had settled down a little bit, spoke to the kids and got whatever they could out from the kids, understand somewhat. They did not really know how the kidnappers looked like, or they couldn't much say, because most of the time their faces were covered when they had come to see the kids. But they kind of gave some physical description which they could. From the driver and the helper, they got to know the location where they found the kid. And they told the driver and the helper that if they would be kind enough to take them back to the same location so that they could retrace the steps of the kids and go to the house. Nobody had any idea that there was a house inside that forest. It was a forest or a jungle, something like that. This went on, and what happened to Piya, Vandana, Kamya and Rahul was that they slowly things kind of became kind of normal for them. They were still traumatized, but still things were becoming normal. They were not allowed outside until and unless they were going to school, and that was under heavy protection because the parents did not want a repeat of what had happened. Nobody would want that. And in about a year's time, Vandana, Pia, Kamya and Rahul were moved from Ranchi to different cities. Vandana and Pia came to Delhi to stay with their maternal uncle. Kamya also was in Delhi with her aunt. Rahul went to Mumbai to live with his grandparents and maternal uncle. The kids all grew up to be they grew up to be okay. They finished their studies, they have very good flourishing careers, and today they are all settled and have family of their own, which is like the most wonderful part of the story, I feel. They do remember their dire situation together, but it has almost become like a nightmare which is not haunting them on a daily basis. For a long time, they had no idea who the lady was, what had happened to the kidnappers. The kids knew that the police was looking into and there was a case, but they did not know any more. And like I said, within 6 months to a year's time, they were all taken out of Ranchi and they were asked not to come back till the time the parents thought it was safe for them to come. Almost 15 years from this incident, or roughly 15 years, or less than 15 years must be, Vandana's mother told her what happened to the kidnappers, what happened when the police went to the location, and the most gruesome part of the story. So the police found the location. They retraced the steps of the kids in a way that they could kind of see things, and it took them a day or so to figure out how and where they came from, and they went in certain direction and they found that unfinished house. They were met with a terrible sight when they went into the house. 5 of the 7 kidnappers were dead, and dead in the most gruesome possible way you could think of. It was as if somebody had almost pulled their heads out of their bodies. Their bodies were in such a condition as if somebody had tortured them and then pulled the heads out. The leader's body was like, it felt as if it was drained out, every drop of blood that was there, and his head was sitting on his lap. The police had never seen something so gruesome. Like, the police sees a lot of gruesome things, but even for them it was a very gruesome sight. They found the other 2 men hiding behind the house, or somewhere they were crouching down under the house or something like, and they were completely incoherent. They had no sense, and they really did not know what they were saying, because police couldn't understand what they were saying. The driver was caught from his village. He had run away to his village. He had sold off the car very conveniently, and he took the money and he had gone off to his village. So he was caught from his village. The police told Vandana's parents that this gang were the most dreaded of the gangs for kidnapping, who was working in Bihar at that time. And whatever information they could get from the driver was the information that they had, because the other members were not in a position or in a mind, they had lost their mind. All they kept on saying was that Muria ne maar diya, hame bhi marenge. The police had no idea who or what was Muria, and they pursued the case and all of them went to jail, but these 2 people never really got back their mental stability. They were, I think, at some point of time moved to a mental asylum or something like that. Ranchi actually has one of the biggest mental asylums in the country, so they might have been there. So what was Muria? The police really did not want to delve into it, though, to be very honest, the police knew about who is Muria. But Vandana's mother told her that there is a legend in that part of Ranchi, and in that forest, that there is a witch or a Dayan who stays there, or who is also called Muria, which means that whose legs can turn backwards and she can walk like that. It's called Muria Pair. So some said that they have seen her, but everybody believed in her. The good thing about her was that she did not harm anybody if you did not trouble her. She was like the protector of the forest. She was like a forest goddess. She was not a Dayan or a witch to them. She was a forest goddess, and she did do the people there, the village, the 5-7 kilometers wherever the village was, they kept offerings for her and things like that. And Muria was always seen with a dog. Now this dog is physical or corporeal, I cannot tell you, but she always had a dog with her, and this mangy looking dog. So they all kind of really worshipped her like a forest goddess, and she was not a bad or an evil spirit for her. It was also said that the house that was being built there was not finished because of Muria, because Muria did not want anybody to come and stay and destroy the forest, and she would look after everything by staying there. Now the question is that what did she come back and take revenge? Vandana feels so. She feels that Muria kind of got to know that these are bad people, they had done bad things, and because she somewhere helped in kind of saving the dog, or she was Vandana had a kind soul, the Muria came and helped them and helped the kids out of such a dire situation and give them kind of refuge from those evil men. And then she came and took revenge. But why did she take revenge from these men? Obviously, they were kidnapping kids and doing things. But the wildest thing that the driver told the parents was that the kidnappers had no intentions, absolutely no intentions of returning the kids. They had planned to kill the kids in a day or so's time, because Vandana's father, uncle, and Kamya's father and Rahul's father were marked for being the people who had asked for help from central agencies, and the kidnappers wanted to make an example of them by taking the ransom and killing the kids. So did Muria knew about their intentions? I think she did. She's a goddess. So she did know about it. I won't say that she's evil. She's a benevolent forest goddess who knew about it and came and took a revenge and finished up the most dreaded gang of kidnappers. Vandana, Pia, Kamya and Rahul also think so. They are ever grateful to her for coming to their aid, and they are ever grateful to their benefactor Muria. So this was their story. Hope you liked it. If you did like, please subscribe, please comment, please give us a like, and tell us what more you want to hear. If you're listening for the first time, welcome to HaanaTales. Hope you like our presentation. Please leave your comments so we know what you want to listen to. Please subscribe. Please spread the word around. If you don't spread the word around, we cannot grow more. Thank you so much, and everybody be safe, be well. Bye-bye. Please subscribe to our channel HaanaTales. Comment, share, like, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for more videos.